Hello, this is Dr. Lewerenz at Longevity Health Institute. Listen, I want to talk to you about something that is very, very big, very, very misunderstood, and that's genetics and epigenetics, okay? Here at Longevity Health Institute, we offer full genomic sequencing. We do a lot of genetic testing here. Full genomic sequences look at your genetic DNA mutations head to toe, okay? So there isn't anything missed. We know everything from prevention to mutations that cause disease and cancer and aging and et cetera, and longevity and health and wellness type of genes, and many things that are even could be passed down to your children and where you got them from, et cetera. So this whole genomic sequence, what do we do with it? Well, the key part is the epigenetics. So, okay, your genetic sequence and your mutations and things that we see and get, okay, are what they are, okay? It is not a destiny, and I want to be clear about that. It is not your genes are not a destiny. Your epigenetics, what you bathe your genes in and what happens in the genetic environment is what expresses itself, okay? And I had a case today that I had to kind of dig deep, explain a lot, kind of felt like I overwhelmed the patient a little bit, but I wanted to make sure when they left, they were very clear and I was very precise in explaining this. But this patient, did a full sequence. We looked at it. I explained all the sequencing and the genes and the issues that we found. And there is a big family history of cancer. And there was also a history in her past that we know of and we discovered, et cetera. And it made me think about how we're going to handle this individually at a personalized level, and then how does it impact the patient, okay? So she had a gene mutation in the P53 gene, and P53 mutations aren't super common, but they're common in people that in their life, in their entire existence, develop cancers and potentially even fatal cancers, okay? And that is because P53 is responsible for, let's call it like the signaler of turning in genes that can be repaired and DNA that can be repaired, and DNA that goes to programmed death, or what we call apoptosis. Okay, so when there's a gene mutation in P53, you don't do programmed cell death. Apoptosis is what we call it. So what it means is when there's damage to a cell, your if you will, your brain smarts to your genes don't say, hey, that cell needs to die, and so it doesn't multiply, okay? So P53 is responsible for cellular multiplication and signaling in repair or cell death. Now, I'm making it sound simple because it's involved in P21, but the long story short is this. It either takes a cell and says, hey, let's repair this DNA, or let's send it over here and have programmed cell death, which is apoptosis. That means that bad cell is gone. We don't have to think about it anymore. It can't replicate, etc. Well, what is cancer? Cancer is the replication of bad genes, cells, sequences, etc. Okay, 1 become 2, become 4, become 8, become 16, meaning now you all of a sudden have a tumor, okay? So why is P53 so important? Well, it can determine in somebody potentially their magnitude of risk for cancer in their lifetime, okay? Now, cancer, number 2 leading cause of death, okay? So regardless of why you die, okay, statistically, you have a 21.3% chance of dying of cancer, okay, in your lifetime, okay? And that's just the facts. Heart disease is above it. But and interestingly, accidents are just below it. But what's interesting about it is that if you have this mutation, okay, there's many things that cause that mutation and can make it worse, or if we should say turn it on or express itself, okay, in that P53 mutation. Plus, then what do we do with that is we can screen you a lot more efficiently. Well, okay, so this person had a lot of cancer in their family. 2 things we focus on with cancer prevention in everybody, and that is diet and gut health, environmental exposure with diet and gut health, okay, how they detoxify, which is part of gut health, and also stress. Man, I can't tell you how many people have adrenal stress, have bad hormones made from their adrenal gland like DHEA and cortisol, and these imbalances, and everything's about balance, these imbalances then can cause cells, bad cells, to replicate, especially if you have a P53 mutation. So the point here is this patient has this mutation, and then we went and talked about our systems approach that we do here. So we do a 6-point model. I say that 30,000 foot view into your health, no matter what you're here for, after we set goals and make sure you're feeling better, doing better, you're got traction into health and wellness and, improving your quality of life and health. But now we want to be preventative and proactive, okay? Identifying your full sequence allows us to do that, okay? But what's most important is what those genes are bathed in, which are your epigenetics. One common thing, and this patient had it, okay, is we know there are 7 viruses that actually activate and mutate P53, which means they can cause higher rates of cancer, specific cancers, and those cells will tend to multiply, metastasize, and be fatal versus go to programmed cell death, which is apoptosis. Okay, so P53 is affected by some viruses, and one common virus, actually 2 this patient had, one was already kind of treated, if you will, in her lifetime, but one is Epstein-Barr. So Epstein-Barr virus is associated to cancer. There's studies that show this and prove this. Doesn't mean everybody with Epstein-Barr is going to get cancer, but if it's causing a mutation and activating the P53, we might have trouble, especially in the perfect storm of other things, epigenetics, that may bathe your genetics, may bathe your DNA. Hopefully that makes sense, okay? The other thing is this person in the past had HPV, human papillomavirus. Now there's many subtypes of human papilloma. I don't want to get too detailed and too kind of bogged down in this, okay? But that's just 2 of probably millions and billions of unidentified viruses that we get exposed to all the time that we know of can activate P53 and cause, unfortunately, not cleaning up bad cells, but causing bad cells, okay, precancerous to cancerous cells, replication, okay, multiplication, metastasis, and potentially fatality. So your bathing of the genes is so important, meaning your environment, how you eat, how you sleep, your immunity, how you get rid of viruses or potentially don't get rid of viruses, okay? Your diet, your gut health, your hormones, stress, so many factors in what you control this genetic environment that you may or may not have. But it's so important to get the sequence and to get your genome so then we know what to do and how to screen you and how to approach it, whatever. Now, I know what you're thinking, what you're asking. What do you do with HPV? What do you do with, Epstein-Barr? There's many things we do there antiviral. Common things are the use of silver done in an appropriate way, dosed right, the right type, okay, small parts per million, okay? So it's safe and effective. It's antiviral. Use tons of ozone, okay? And we have videos on ozone, talk about ozone. Ozone's amazing because it's antiviral, it's anti-inflammatory, it's immune boosting. I call it like a natural almost vaccine, okay? And ozone literally can take away and destroy viruses. And we've seen that here in not just patients and their symptoms, but also in lab tests. So clinical results, okay, and objective laboratory results. So hopefully putting that together, what I'm driving home, and I hope you understand, and I want to make sure that you're educated and fully grasp this, is your genes matter, but they're not destiny, okay? And let's tackle that and make sure that you bathe your genes in the right stuff. This is Dr. Lewerenz. Be well. Have a great 2023. It's coming around the corner here. We're here to help you in the best and personalized functional medicine. Be well.